Many of us have been told that forgetting a person's name or walking into a room only to stand there wondering why is just a normal tax we pay for getting older. We shrug it off as a senior moment, but this common belief is actually quite dangerous. Think of your brain like a bustling city where information travels across clear highways. Over time, if we don't maintain those roads, they get blocked by debris until entire sections of the city become isolated. In my neurology clinic, I see this daily. Good people who fear they are fading away, not realizing their brain is simply short-circuiting from a lack of specific stimulation. The real danger isn't the lapse itself, but the silent resignation that follows. When we accept it as inevitable, we slowly surrender our independence, risking a future where we must rely on others for our basic needs. But science proves you can reopen those neural highways in just 60 seconds a day. If these moments feel familiar, simply comment "me" or a loved one below. My name is Dr. Eric Whitman. I am a neurologist, and for the better part of my professional life, I have been obsessed with one thing: the extraordinary resilience of the human brain. Every morning, I walk into my clinic, I hang up my white coat, and I open the files of people who look just like you. I see men and women in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, individuals who have lived incredible lives, raised families, built careers, and contributed so much to our communities. But lately, when they sit across from me in that exam chair, I notice something in their eyes that wasn't there before. It's not just the physical fatigue of aging, it's a deep-seated, quiet flickering of fear. They come to me because they've noticed the fog. That's the word they use most often. Brain fog. They describe the sensation of trying to reach for a memory, a person's name, the title of a movie they saw last week, or the reason they walked into the kitchen, and finding only a hazy void. It feels as though a thick mist has rolled over their thoughts. They tell me about the frustration of feeling slower than they used to be, but beneath that frustration lies the real demon, the fear of the unknown. In my years of clinical practice, I've realized that for the American senior, there is a fear much greater than death itself. It is the fear of losing your independence. It is the fear of that day when your children start looking at you with pity instead of pride. The fear that you will become a burden, someone who needs to be managed rather than someone who leads. We live in a culture that prizes self-reliance. For a 70-year-old American who has spent decades being the provider or the anchor of the family, the idea of losing their cognitive edge feels like losing their very identity. I see this fear manifest in the way patients hesitate before answering my questions. They are testing themselves, terrified that if they stumble over a word, it's a sign that the big one, Alzheimer's, or dementia, is finally knocking at the door. But here is what I want you to understand, and it is the very reason I am speaking to you today. Much of what we call inevitable decline is actually a lack of information and a lack of specific targeted action. My mission isn't just to diagnose, it's to empower. I have seen too many people give up on their brains far too early. They believe that once you hit a certain age, the hardware is fixed and can only go downhill. As a neurologist who stays up at night reading the latest peer-reviewed journals, I can tell you that this is scientifically inaccurate. My goal is to dispel that cloud of fear with the cold, hard, and incredibly hopeful light of modern science. I want to give you back the keys to your own mind. You aren't fading away. You might just be unconditioned. Today, we are going to change that. Let's address the elephant in the room, the poisonous thought. In our society, we are bombarded with the narrative that memory loss is a mandatory part of the aging process. You see it in the Hallmark cards that joke about senior moments, and you see it in movies where the elderly character is always the one who is confused or bumbling. We've been conditioned to believe that our brains have an expiration date, and once we pass 60, we are simply waiting for the lights to go out. This is what I call a poisonous thought, because it creates a self-fulfilling prophecy. In neurology, we have a term called learned helplessness. If you believe that your memory loss is inevitable and just a part of getting old, you stop fighting. You stop trying to learn new skills. You stop challenging your cognitive boundaries. And when you stop using those neural pathways, they do indeed begin to wither. It's not necessarily age that is killing the memory. It is the resignation to age. You give up before the fight has even begun. But let's look at what the science actually says. For decades, the medical community believed that we were born with a set number of neurons and that, as we aged, they simply died off and could never be replaced. We thought the brain was like a machine. Once a gear wore out, the whole system was compromised. We now know that it is wrong. Completely, fundamentally wrong. The most revolutionary discovery in modern neuroscience is a concept called neuroplasticity. I want you to burn that word into your mind. Neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Your brain is not a machine that rusts. It is an organic living garden. Think about that for a moment. If you have a garden and you stop watering it, if you stop pulling the weeds and stop nourishing the soil, what happens? The flowers wilt and the weeds take over. It looks dead, but is the land dead? No. The growth potential is still right there under the surface. If you start watering it today, if you provide the right sunlight and nutrients, that garden can bloom again. It doesn't matter if that garden is 20 years old or 80 years old. The biological mechanics of growth remain the same. Your neurons are capable of growing new branches, we call them dendrites, and creating new handshakes, synapses, with other neurons at any age. This means that even if you have lost some connections over the years, you have the latent biological power to build new ones. You can pave new roads in your mind. Imagine a forest. Over the years, you've walked the same path every day. It's a wide, easy highway, but if you stop walking on it, the brush grows back. However, you can always choose to grab a machete and clear a new path. At first, it's a narrow, difficult trail. But the more you walk it, the wider and smoother it becomes. That is exactly what happens when you perform the 60-second exercise I'm about to show you. You are forcing your brain to clear the brush and build a new, high-speed neural highway. We see the proof of this in what we call superagers. These are individuals in their 80s, 90s, and even 100s who have the memory capacity and cognitive speed of people in their 50s. When we study their brains, we don't just see good luck or good genes. We see a specific lifestyle and a set of habits that keep the brain in a state of constant repair. They don't accept the age myth. They keep their brains in a state of active gardening. They are living proof that you are not a victim of the calendar. You are the architect of your own cognitive health. To help you understand how this works in the real world, I want to tell you about a patient of mine named Robert. Robert is 78 years old, a retired carpenter from outside of Philadelphia. If you met him, you'd see a man with hands that tell a story, calloused, strong hands that have built houses and crafted furniture for 50 years. Robert is a man of immense pride. He was always the guy who could solve any problem, the one everyone in the family turned to for advice. But when Robert's daughter brought him into my office, he wasn't that man anymore. He sat slumped in the chair, looking at his shoes. His daughter told me, with tears in her eyes, about the breaking point. A few weeks prior, Robert's youngest grandson, Luke, a bright 7-year-old, had come over to the house. Luke brought a wooden truck that Robert had hand-carved for him years ago. Luke asked, "Grandpa, tell me again what kind of wood this is." Robert looked at the truck. He had carved it himself. He knew every grain of that wood. But in that moment, his mind went blank. Not just foggy, but empty. He couldn't remember the wood. Worse, he looked at his grandson, and for a terrifying 5 seconds he couldn't remember the boy's name. The look of confusion on Luke West's face and the crushing wave of shame that hit Robert were almost too much to bear. Robert retreated into silence. He stopped going to his workshop. He started spending his days in front of the TV, convinced that his life as a useful man was over. He told me, "Dr. Whitman, The engine is dead. There's no point in trying to restart it. I looked Robert in the eye and said, "Robert, your engine isn't dead. It's just stalled because you've stopped giving it the right spark." I made him a deal. I said, "I'm not going to give you a miracle pill. I'm going to give you a 60-second task. I want you to do it every single day, once in the morning, for 4 weeks. It will feel silly. You might even feel a little bit foolish doing it, but I want you to promise me you won't skip a single day." Robert was a skeptic. He's a man of wood and nails, not brain exercises. But he agreed, mostly because he saw how much it meant to his daughter. Week 1. Robert called the office. He said he didn't feel like a genius yet, but he felt more awake. He noticed that the mid-morning slump he usually had didn't feel as heavy. He was watering his garden for the first time in years. Week 2. He started reading the local newspaper again. For months he had given up because he couldn't keep track of the stories. Now he found he could follow a column from start to finish without having to reread the same paragraph 3 times. The neural highways were being cleared of debris. Week 3. Something remarkable happened. Robert was sitting in his kitchen when the name of an old apprentice he hadn't spoken to in 30 years popped into his head. Just like that. His brain was searching and finding information again. He went back into his workshop and picked up a piece of cedar. He remembered the smell, the texture, and exactly how to plane it. Week 4. Robert came back to my office. He wasn't looking at his shoes anymore. He walked in with his shoulders back and a firm grip. He told me that Luke had come over again. This time, when Luke asked about the truck, Robert didn't just tell him it was maple. He told him the story of the specific tree it came from, and the name of the dog that used to sit under his workbench while he carved it. Robert's story isn't about a cure for old age. It's a story about clarity. It's about the fact that Robert's brain still had the capacity to serve him. It just needed the right oxygenation and the right challenge to wake up. He moved from a state of resignation to a state of active living. He regained his role as the patriarch of his family. And the best part? The exercise Robert used is the same one I am going to teach you right now. It doesn't matter if you feel like your memory is gone, or if you just want to keep it sharp. The biology of Robert's success is available to you too. Now that we understand the incredible why behind neuroplasticity, and we've seen the real-world success of patients like Robert, it's time to get practical. I want you to think of this not as a workout, but as an appointment. In my practice, I find that the most successful patients are those who treat their brain health with the same respect they would a meeting with their financial advisor or a Sunday dinner with their grandkids. This is your 60-second brain appointment. A. The preparation, setting the stage for success. Before we start the clock, we have to prepare the environment. Your brain is a highly sensitive organ, and it performs best when the hardware, your body, is positioned correctly. 1. The chair and the spine. Find a sturdy chair. I prefer a dining chair or something with a firm back rather than a soft, sinking sofa. Sit at the very edge of the chair. Why the edge? Because when you sit back and slouch, you compress your diaphragm, and more importantly, you slightly restrict the blood flow through the carotid arteries in your neck. By sitting on the edge, you naturally engage your core muscles and straighten your spine. Imagine a thin golden thread pulling the top of your head toward the ceiling. This opens up the highway between your heart and your head. 2. The foundation, feet and hands. Place your feet firm and flat on the floor, about hip-width apart. Feel the connection between your soles and the ground. This provides what we call grounding and sensory input to your cerebellum. Place your hands gently on your thighs, palms down. This posture tells your nervous system, we are alert, we are safe, and we are ready to work. 3. The reset breath. Before we move, we must reset the vagus nerve, the long nerve that controls your rest and digest system. If you are stressed, your brain is in survival mode, not learning mode. Close your eyes for just 5 seconds. Take a deep, slow breath in through your nose for a count of 4. Feel your belly expand. not just your chest. Now, exhale through your mouth as if you are blowing through a straw for a count of 6. As you exhale, feel the tension leave your shoulders. Your brain is now oxygenated and calm. Open your eyes. We are ready. B. Part 1. Activation and oxygenation, seconds 0 to 30. The first half of our minute is dedicated to priming the engine. We need to flood your neurons with fresh, oxygenated blood and wake up the coordination centers of the brain. The physical movement, the rhythmic lift. We will focus on a slow, deliberate arm movement. While keeping your back straight, slowly lift your right arm in front of you until it is parallel to the floor. The movement should be smooth, like you are moving through water. Hold it for a split second, then lower it back to your thigh. Now, repeat with the left arm. The science of slow. In our fast-paced American life, we tend to rush everything. But for neuroplasticity, slow is fast. When you move slowly, you engage a process called proprioception, your brain's ability to sense where your limbs are in space. This forces your motor cortex and your cerebellum to communicate with high precision. You aren't just moving an arm, you are pinging your brain's GPS. The synchronized breath, the 4-count rule. This is where the magic happens. You must time your breathing to your movement. As you lift your right arm, inhale through your nose slowly, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. As you lower your right arm, exhale through your mouth slowly, counting 1, 2, 3, 4. Repeat with the left arm. Why this matters? By the time you reach the 20-second mark, your heart rate is steady and your blood is carrying a peak load of oxygen directly to the frontal lobe, the part of the brain responsible for attention. You are essentially cleaning the spark plugs of your cognitive engine. You are signaling to your brain that it is time to transition from autopilot to active control. Now that the engine is warm and the oxygen is flowing, we apply the mental spark. This is the most critical part of the exercise. We are going to introduce a concept called dual tasking. The concept, cross-lobe communication. In most of our daily lives, we do things on autopilot. We walk without thinking. We talk without focusing. This 60-second exercise forces your brain to do something it rarely does. Manage a rhythmic motor task, moving the arms while simultaneously performing a high-level cognitive task, word retrieval. This forces the frontal lobe, attention, the temporal lobe, memory, and the cerebellum, coordination, to talk to each other all at once. It's like a full orchestra rehearsal for your neurons. The task, verbal fluency. While you continue the slow arm lifts and the 4-count breathing, do not stop the movement. You are going to begin naming items from a specific category out loud. The execution, example fruits. Lift right arm, inhale. Say apple. Lower right arm, exhale. Prepare the next word. Lift left arm, inhale. Say banana. Lower left arm, exhale. Prepare the next word. Lift right arm, inhale. Say orange. The why behind the struggle. You might find that around the 45-second mark, your brain stutters. You might forget to move your arm, or you might struggle to find a word. This is the gold mine. That moment of struggle is exactly when your brain is forced to create a new neural pathway to solve the problem. It acts like a muscle that only grows when it lifts a weight that is slightly too heavy. When you feel that stutter, don't get frustrated. Smile. That is the sound of your neuroplasticity turning on. By the time the 60 seconds are up, you have stimulated more brain area than most people do in an entire hour of watching television. You have oxygenated, coordinated, and challenged your mind. You have completed your brain appointment. Doing the exercise once is a great start, but to truly restore memory and build what we neurologists call cognitive reserve, we need to understand how to optimize and progress. Your brain is incredibly efficient. If you do the same thing every day, it will eventually find a way to do it on autopilot, and the spark of neuroplasticity will fade. We must keep the brain surprised. A. The 4-week Level Up Plan. I want you to follow this progression. This is the same protocol I gave to Robert, and it is designed to gradually increase the cognitive load on your brain. Week 1. Concrete categories. Focus on simple, concrete things. This builds your semantic memory, your library of facts. Categories: fruits, vegetables, US states, furniture, tools, or car brands. Goal: maintain the rhythm of your arms and breath perfectly while naming 8 to 10 items per minute. Week 2. The Phonetic Challenge. Now we move to phonetic fluency. Instead of categories, we use letters. This is much harder because your brain doesn't store information alphabetically. It stores it by meaning. Task: pick a letter, like S or B, and name anything that starts with that letter. Why it works: this forces the brain to search the files in a non-linear way. It's a powerful workout for your prefrontal cortex. Week 3. The Mathematical Countdown. This is where we target working memory, your brain, our scratchpad, where it holds onto information temporarily. Task: while moving your arms, count backward from 100 by threes, 100, 97, 94, 91. Why it works: calculation and motor movement use overlapping neural circuits. By forcing them to work together, you are thickening the connections between your brain's hemispheres. Week 4 and beyond. Personalization and complexity. Now we make it personal. This helps bridge the gap between the exercise and your daily life. Task: name your grandchildren's birthdays, the street names of the neighborhood you grew up in, or the capitals of the world. Challenge: try to name an item that starts with A, then B, then C, alternating with your arm movements: apple, banana, cherry. B. The 3 critical mistakes to avoid. I've seen hundreds of people try this, and these are the 3 things that stop the progress in its tracks. 1. Rushing, the adrenaline trap. Many Americans think that faster is better. They start flailing their arms and shouting words. Stop. When you rush, your body produces cortisol and adrenaline. These are stress hormones. Stress is the enemy of memory. It shuts down the hippocampus, the memory center, and shifts control to the amygdala, the fear center. To grow new connections, the brain needs to be in a parasympathetic state, calm, focused, and slow. If you feel yourself rushing, stop, take a reset breath, and start again. 2. Inconsistency, the dry garden effect. I often use the analogy of watering a plant. If you give a plant 5 gallons of water on Monday, and then nothing for the rest of the week, the plant will die. Your brain is the same. It needs a microdose of stimulation every single day. The brain has a process called neural pruning. If you don't use a connection, the brain literally trims it away to save energy. Doing this for 60 seconds every morning is 100 times more effective than doing it for an hour once a week. 3. Distractions, the multitasking myth. Do not do this while the TV is on. Do not do it while someone is talking to you. In our modern world, we are constantly half-attending to 5 things at once. This exercise is about focused attention. Your attention is the chisel that carves the new neural pathways. If your attention is split, the chisel is dull. Give yourself this 1 minute of silence. You deserve it. C. Professional secrets for better results. In my clinic, I share 3 small hacks that can double the effectiveness of this routine. 1. The hydration rule. The glass of water. Before your brain is approximately 75% water. Even 2% dehydration can cause a measurable decline in cognitive processing speed and memory recall. Think of your neurons like electrical wires. If they are dry, the signal doesn't travel as well. I tell my patients to drink 8 ounces of water right before their 60-second exercise. This ensures that the blood we are pumping to the brain is at the right viscosity to deliver nutrients to those thirsty neurons. 2. the inner smile, the dopamine spark. This sounds a bit new age, but it is pure biology. When you smile, even a small, subtle smile, your brain releases a tiny burst of dopamine and serotonin. These neurotransmitters act like oil for your neural pathways. They make it easier for neurons to fire. When you start your exercise with a smile, you are telling your brain, this is a positive, rewarding activity. This makes the brain more likely to save the new connections you are building. It's the difference between forcing a door open and having the key. 3. The teacher method, the protégé effect. The best way to solidify a new neural pathway is to explain it to someone else. In medicine, we call this see one, do one, teach one. When you finish your first week of this exercise, I want you to explain it to your spouse, a friend at the community center, or your son or daughter. When you explain the steps, your brain has to re-encode the information, making the memory of the exercise and the benefits twice as strong. Plus, having a brain buddy makes you much more likely to stay consistent. Final thought on optimization. Your brain is the most complex structure in the known universe. It has been with you through every joy, every challenge, and every milestone of your life. It has an incredible capacity to heal, but it needs you to be its advocate. By spending this 1 minute a day, with the right posture, the right breath, and the right challenge, you aren't just remembering words. You are protecting your independence. You are ensuring that you remain the author of your own story. I want you to start tomorrow morning. Not someday, but tomorrow. Right before your first cup of coffee, give your brain its 60 seconds. You have taken care of everyone else for 60 years. Now it is time to take care of you. The greatest danger to your mind isn't a sudden illness, but the quiet, slow habit of resignation. The silent accumulation of days where you let your brain stay on autopilot because you were told that is just what happens after 60. If you've found yourself nodding along to jokes about senior moments, or simply stopped challenging yourself because it felt too difficult, please know it wasn't because you were being careless. You simply weren't given the full picture of how resilient your biology truly is. The truth is, you still hold the steering wheel. By committing to this 1 minute habit, you are taking back a level of control that many have already walked away from. If you are joining me in this journey, please just leave a comment saying, I'm in. Following this channel isn't about entertainment. It as a preventative measure to ensure you stay ahead of the warnings the traditional system often overlooks. In our next discussion, I'll be revealing a hidden daily habit that is even more common than memory lapses, affecting your cognitive clarity before you even step out of bed. I share these insights because I've spent far too many years sitting across from patients who only wish they had known these simple steps a decade sooner. Take care of your extraordinary brain.